The adjustment no one acknowledged. It didn't come with an announcement. No policy shift. No dramatic reform. Just a quiet change that blended into routine operations and altered behavior almost immediately. This story matters now because markets don't always change through events. They change through adjustments. Small technical decisions that feel administrative, harmless, even boring. Yet these are the choices that quietly reshape incentives, risk tolerance, and outcomes. To understand how a system can transform without anyone admitting it as change, we need to return to the adjustment no one acknowledged. Administrative changes are uniquely dangerous precisely because their administrative character disarms scrutiny. When something is framed as a technical refinement rather than a strategic shift, the stakeholders who would normally evaluate a strategic shift are not engaged. The decision passes through channels designed for operational approval rather than risk assessment. And by the time the implications become visible, the change has been normalized, depended upon, and incorporated into hundreds of downstream decisions that were never informed about it. It began inside a framework most participants never questioned. Rules that had worked for years were refined, optimized, modernized. The language was careful. Efficiency, flexibility, alignment with evolving conditions. Nothing sounded controversial. The first reveal wasn't visible in prices. It appeared in behavior. Institutions adjusted positions slightly. Balance sheets stretched a little further. Trades that once required justification became routine. Risk limits didn't disappear. They relaxed quietly. Compliance boxes were still checked. Models still passed. Everything looked controlled. But the definition control had shifted. What was once considered aggressive was now acceptable. What was once exceptional became normal. Participants adapted quickly. They always do. Strategies recalibrated. Assumptions updated. The market absorbed the adjustment without friction. That was the point. Smooth integration meant no one questioned its impact. But beneath that smoothness, something important had changed. The margin for error narrowed. Buffers thinned. The system leaned forward without realizing it had done so. The most dangerous part wasn't ignorance. It was normalization. Because once an adjustment is accepted as standard, reversing it feels disruptive. Even if the adjustment itself introduced fragility, the market didn't react to the change. It incorporated it. And incorporation is far more powerful than reaction. The adjustment no one acknowledged had already done its work. The consequences were just waiting for the moment they would be noticed. As the adjustment settled into daily practice, its influence deepened quietly. What began as a technical refinement became an assumption baked into strategy. Risk models reflected it. Capital planning relied on it. Decisions were made as if the new boundaries had always existed. The reveal sharpened when leverage increased without anyone calling it leverage. Exposure grew through efficiency, not excess. Positions were structured to appear unchanged while carrying more sensitivity beneath the surface. Nothing looked reckless. Everything looked optimized. The early conflict emerged in stress scenarios. Simulations required more frequent tuning. Edge cases became more plausible. Outcomes once considered remote now appeared in internal discussions. Yet raising concern felt unnecessary. The system was performing well. Returns improved. Volatility stayed contained. Success silenced doubt. Participants trusted the adjustment because it worked, until it didn't. Strategies began converging around the same assumptions. Diversity faded. Too many decisions relied on the same inputs, the same thresholds, the same understanding of safety. Liquidity appeared abundant, but only under calm conditions. During brief stress, it hesitated, just long enough to feel unfamiliar. Traders noticed execution slipping slightly, spreads widening unexpectedly. But each instance resolved quickly, reinforcing belief that the system could handle it. The adjustment had done something subtle and dangerous. It had aligned behavior, and alignment reduces friction until friction is needed. By the time questions surfaced, the adjustment was no longer optional. It was structural. Reversing it would mean admitting the system had grown dependent on it. Few wanted to be first to say that out loud. The market had become unstable. It had become conditioned. And conditioned systems don't fail suddenly. They fail when reality demands a response they were never designed to give. The climax arrived as recognition, not disaster. The market didn't crash. It paused, long enough for participants to see the structure they had built and the dependence it had created. Authorities responded quietly. Facilities were adjusted. Language softened. Safeguards returned under new names. The adjustment was reversed. It was balanced. The system needed slack again. The resolution unfolded through repricing. Risk was recalculated. Buffers were rebuilt. Strategies adapted to operate with less efficiency and more margin. The market accepted that smoothness had come at a cost. In hindsight, the adjustment wasn't reckless. It was incomplete. It optimized the performance under ideal conditions, not survival under stress. And for a time, that trade-off felt worth it, until reality demanded resilience. Modern relevance is everywhere. Markets today are still shaped by quiet adjustments, still influenced by technical decisions that feel administrative but alter behavior at scale, still vulnerable to the moment when hidden risk becomes visible. The lesson isn't to fear change. It's to question normalization, because the most dangerous shifts in finance are rarely debated. They are implemented, accepted, and only understood when they can no longer be undone. The deepest implication of the adjustment no one acknowledged is what it reveals about organizational attention in financial systems. Most institutions have developed sophisticated mechanisms for evaluating large, visible decisions. They have committees, frameworks, and approval processes designed to ensure that consequential choices receive appropriate scrutiny. But these mechanisms are calibrated to the size and visibility of decisions as they appear, not as they eventually prove to be. The adjustment that arrives framed as a technical optimization bypasses those mechanisms entirely. It is not that institutions fail to apply scrutiny. They apply it, but to the wrong things, at the wrong scale, using categories that were designed for a different kind of risk. This is why the culture questioning, the habit of asking whether a small change that is producing good short-term results is also introducing longer-term vulnerabilities, is so difficult to maintain and so valuable when it exists. It requires applying the rigor of large decision evaluation to small decision contexts, which feels disproportionate precisely when it is most necessary. London's most durable institutions have learned to treat administrative normalization as a signal worth investigating, not as evidence that everything is under control. The absence of controversy around a change is not the same as the absence of consequence. And the adjustments that go unacknowledged the longest are often the ones that ultimately matter most. Subscribe to join the journey. The